2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Super excited to have Vic Pascucci on the show here this morning, co-founder, Energy Capital Ventures. Super excited to have you on the show, Vic. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Kip. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, awesome. Well, maybe let's kick it off with a little bit of Energy Capital Ventures and what it is that you guys do and what your investment philosophy is.
Sure. I appreciate it. So, Energy Capital Ventures is the only early stage venture capital fund that's solely dedicated to the sustainability, resilience, and digital transformation of the natural gas industry. In addition to that unique thesis, which makes us advocates in innovation for what we've termed as green molecules, we further differentiate ourselves with a customized engagement and deep integration with our corporate limited partners, all of whom are publicly traded energy companies. It's this model that enables us to take the innovation from the startup ecosystem, combine it with the scale of the energy industry to make some great game-changing generational companies that are really producing the next generation of clean, safe, reliable, cost-effective energy. Think of us as early stage C plus Series A, so just maybe about when you got a little bit of product, something we had diligence on. Within sustainability and resilience, we're more of what people call deep tech investors. So deep tech or hard tech as it relates to energy. So a lot of hydrogen, renewable natural gas, CCUS. On the digital transformation, that gets us into SaaS types of solutions that are bringing automation and some efficiencies to that natural gas value chain across the sector. We historically have led all our rounds, priced them, take full board seats, really active supporters of the companies. Fund has been around for about 4 years now. We just are about to make the last investment out of Fund 1 before we start investing out of Fund 2, which we recently had a first close on. So it's an exciting time just to kind of, to expand the green molecules thing we started with Fund 1 and really nail and scale it in Fund 2.
No, that's awesome, Vic. Thank you. Maybe since you guys have been around for 4 years, maybe talk a little about prior to launching Energy Capital Ventures and what brought you into this space. I know prior to hopping on, you were talking about one of your partners that had some background in energy, but let's hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we can two things. My background in adventure is definitely not a linear sequential, and then how we got to the energy space is definitely an interesting one. It's been a fantastic journey and really worked out for us. So when I was at my last fund, when I made a decision it was time to make a change, one of the first people I called is Rick Patone, my partner here. And Rick and I had done a bunch of deals together. We'd been on boards together and some pretty successful outcomes and just really enjoyed working together, which is probably the most important thing when it comes to this business. And so I called Rick. I'm like, hey, Rick, I'm thinking about doing something different. You and I have always gotten along. We've had some great times. You do a lot of insurtech and fintech, so do I. I'm like, what do you think? He's like, let's go. It's about time for you got off the bench. Let's do something. I've been waiting for this. This is awesome. And he's like, but it's not going to be in fintech or insurtech. And I was like, Rick, what are you talking about? And like I mentioned before, well, I did not, for as much as I knew about Rick, I didn't realize early in his career, he did a lot of energy investment banking. And he's like, Vic, I want you to read these articles, look at these analyst papers, look at the coverage and tell me what you think of the industry. And let's get back together next week and take it from there. So, went through all this stuff. And the punchline of it was when I looked at the energy industry, what it's going through right now is the same thing financial services was going through 20 years ago. And it is a lot of the same macro conditions with, aging infrastructure, regulatory burdens or challenges, new technology that was going to enable or disrupt, people questioning their business models, customer satisfaction issues, just the same type of big macro conditions within the market. I said, okay, this is super interesting. I got attracted to financial services because the impact it can have on communities is at that point like nothing I'd ever expected. I mean, if people don't have financial security, they really have nothing. Then once I dug deeper and realized that people don't have energy and we don't have energy security, then as a country and as every community in that country, we don't have a future. Right. So that got really exciting. And then Rick was fortunate enough to introduce me to a lot of the CEOs of the companies that are actually LPs in our fund now. And these are just great folks that want to do the right thing. They want to understand the technologies of tomorrow, but they have full-time day jobs, right? They're providing
Right.
clean, safe, reliable, cost-effective energy that communities all over this country, right? And they do a lot of things well. And sure, they talk to startups, and sure, they have their own innovation programs. But they realize they realize they need some scale to that. They needed some help understanding what's going on out there, looking at different technologies, vetting potential partners, and looking for a financial return as well. And so, it all came together. We put a fund together around that about, I think that was March of 2020,
Okay.
right? So starting a fund at the beginning of COVID was probably not the best time. So to start fundraising, but we did it. We persisted, and it got the first fund done, and now we're really excited for the second fund is going.
No, that's super exciting. What are your strategies for identifying and capitalize on high growth opportunities?
It was. I still consider us to be like an old school venture capital fund, as
Okay.
far as how you source, how you create enterprise value, and how you work with your entrepreneurs. But when we started this fund, a lot of people were focusing on climate, as well as they should. Climate's important, but to most funds, whether they were specialized funds or general funds, to them that was all about electrification. So it was electrification as the solution for quote unquote climate, not understanding that a lot of those same technologies present environmental challenges that coal doesn't even present,
Right.
right? So we looked at the market and realized there was nothing going around the natural gas value chain, right? There's nothing really supporting that and solely focusing that, and there's nothing focusing on what we've termed as green molecules or green molecules innovation. And to do it, but do it with the authenticity that only comes from doing it at the exclusion of everything else. So, right? So we
Okay.
don't do wind, solar, batteries. This is all we do. And because we carved out this particular discrete identity around green molecules, it really helped us at the beginning go to market with a message that entrepreneurs, co-investors, accelerators, incubators, corporations, academia, you name it, had not heard before. They'd not heard this discrete pitch, and people that were authentically concerned about the importance of this industry. And so, day one, as you can imagine, with a first-time fund, with some investors that maybe had some reasonable success in the past, took a company's public and some other things, but we still had no identity out there, right? So we're talking about green molecules, and everyone's talking about electrification, and so it was a lot of just old school, reaching out, cold calls, calling people in the industry you worked with in the past, getting the message out there. And then it got interesting to see once we got a couple months into that the overwhelming majority of our deal flow now is inbound, because people realize, like, if you're doing something in this green molecules thing, like, we're a great firm to talk to,
Uh-huh.
because if you're an entrepreneur and you're betting your whole life on a green molecule solution, maybe it's hydrogen, maybe it's ammonia, maybe it's CCUS, maybe it's point source capture, who knows what it is, you want a venture capitalist that's as committed to the space as you are. Like, I don't do green molecules and the things that would also disinherit or disenfranchise green molecules.
Right.
This is all we do, right? This is it. There is no plan B. There is no alternative. This is all we focus on. So entrepreneurs are like, yeah, that's probably a team I want in my corner or on my cap table.
Yeah.
And then because this is all we do, we're able to go 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 clicks deep into some of these technologies that a lot of firms or journalists aren't able to. And it's because they focus on other things, which is fine. So, that level of commitment and then that subject matter depth is something that helped us attract those opportunities to us, as well as we'll always be out hunting,
Hmm.
looking, and knocking on doors. It's just inherent in who we are as folks. But it was, creating value and finding value was really about having our own identity, having our own investment thesis, and just being a good partner to folks.
Oh, very good. For our audience, maybe people that aren't as exposed to the space, when you say green
Yeah.
molecules, what exactly does that encompass for you? What does that mean? Green molecules.
Sure. So, I can give some examples within our portfolio. On the sustainability resilience, those are like what I mentioned earlier, those deep tech plays. So we have a company, Cemvita. Cemvita takes waste sugar and creates biofuels and bio oils out of that, which then becomes sustainable aviation fuel. We have another company, GH2, Gold Hydrogen, where they take microbes that they have scientifically altered and enriched through nutrients. They stick those, for lack of a better word, they stick those microbes downhole into an end of life natural gas well or end of life oil well, and they pull out straight hydrogen, and
Okay.
hydrogen being the next great energy source of tomorrow. We're also working with companies like Ferno that do carbon negative cement production in a next generation kiln that operates on natural gas. We do things around turbo expander, sapphire technologies that actually create energy at pressure drops within the natural gas system. There are generally pressure drops. It goes from one big pipe to a smaller pipe to a smaller pipe. They capture this pressure drops and then create power from it, and either power a data center or put power back to the grid, or maybe put power back to the facility that they're at. And so we do, those are kind of your green molecules. Also, there's a company we invested in Vienna, Austria, that has electrical chemical stimulation that goes, unit that goes on top of or into an anaerobic digester. Anaerobic digesters take waste products and create renewable natural gas. So they make the digesters work better, faster, stronger, with a higher quality biofuel or biomethane yield that comes out of things. So that's like those types of things. So think about energy sources of tomorrow that aren't necessarily wind, solar, batteries, or electric. And then the digital transformation side, we have a software company, Highwood Emissions, which provides methane measurement and reconciliation. So due to a single source of truth, if you're an oil company or a gas company saying, what are my emissions? How am I baselining them? How am I validating what they are? And what's my reconciliation path that's on it? So that's been great to help out. And then on the broader scale, we have a company, Actual. And what Actual does is they have an enterprise sustainability transformation plan. But the interesting thing is they have sustainability transformation plans at the enterprise level for these huge corporations, maybe your or public entities as well. You could be an international wool company, you could be a city, you could be an oil and gas company, you could be a furniture manufacturer, but you have these sustainability efforts. You want to know at the end of the day, and the CFO wants to know from a capital planning perspective, are we making money and hitting our sustainability goals, or are we just wasting money? So there's lots of sustainability to pick from, but why not pick for the ones that, one, pencil out positively, as well as hit our sustainability goals? And there's no other solutions out there like that. A lot of solutions that talk about carbon accounting and this, that, and the other, but not one that the CFO or the CEOs can then go to the shareholders or their stakeholders and be like, we're doing this around agriculture, textiles, energy, whatever it may be. And like, these are the sustainability goals we're doing, and these are the projects, and this is how they're performing.
Very good. It's like, my understanding is, and I think a lot of people don't know this, I mean, that the United States really is like the Middle East of natural gas.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean,
yeah.
yeah.
We can be, we were, and we should be the number one natural gas producer in the world.
Right.
It's abundant, it's clean, it's safe. We need to make it cleaner. We need to make it better. Natural gas is a fantastic energy source as far as density and portability, but the natural gas industry also needs its next generation projects or products, right? So you've got natural gas, and it can come from different sources or different means of mining or extraction. But then, things like renewable natural gas that come from waste products, things like hydrogen, which is another molecule that can be transferred, or things that take the natural gas products and then create additional things like biomethane or SAF, like we mentioned, or those types of things.
Yeah. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing as a firm, or even just the industry is facing in building business, and how are you guys overcoming those things?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is around education for people to really understand how energy works, and that, yeah, you want to electrify everything when you can't, because there's certain applications, both commercial and industrial, that you cannot electrify, you cannot create that energy density. And if you did, it would be so ridiculously expensive, you'd shut businesses down. And the same on the consumer side. There's a time and place for electrification, and it works in some instances, but not in every instance, right? And a lot of those same materials you need to electrify, those rare earth materials, and they're called rare for a freaking reason, because they are rare, and they tend not to be in this country, and they tend to be produced in countries of different political, if not pure communist factions, with abhorrent labor practices, where you got to strip out things from the earth and then, with enormous earth moving machines, and then throw them on a barge across the ocean. It's a little bit of a carbon footprint there. But yes, there should be batteries, and there should be wind, there should be solar. But people need to understand for the energy demand that's coming on the horizon, whether it's from population growth, data centers, onshoring manufacturing, the clean energy itself, we need all of the above of those energy sources. We need all of the above times 10, right? The energy demand is going to be incredible in the coming years, right? One data center can suck up 15 times the power of 100,000 home town. This is one
Wow.
data center, right? And we're going to have them popping up everywhere.
Right.
So we need to look at all energies. We need to look at the electrons. We need to look at the molecules. We cannot chastise or demonize any energy source, but look at how can we make it as efficient, as clean, and safe, as reliable as possible.
Yeah.
Because there's a time when the sun's not out and the wind's not blowing, and you can't get the materials you need for your panels or your batteries, and you need to have all these
Yeah.
to satisfy the energy demand. And so really people to take a step back and not have this allergic reaction, if not zealous reaction to, oh, it's a fossil fuel, or, oh, I don't want a windmill in my backyard. Like, there's probably a time and a place for all of those things, but we really need to understand them and truly understand how things work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How, as far as your investments and where you guys are looking, is it mostly in the United States? Are you guys looking in markets around the globe, or any particular other
We were
regions?
Yeah, no, we reserve 25%, up to 25% of every fund to go internationally. So when we say internationally, that's outside of North America. So
Okay.
we've done this first portfolio will have maybe 10 companies in it. One company is in Vienna, Austria, that we've just recently reincorporated. We have one company outside of the United States in Canada, so still in North America. Right now, we're looking at one company, another company in Germany, another company in New Zealand, and one company in Austria. So
Okay.
we'll keep our pulse on it. We do believe there's a certain element of innovation within green molecules, where the rest of the world has done some pretty amazing things and advanced a little bit further than the U.S. So we like to help those companies bring their innovation to the U.S. and help them scale with our network here.
Oh, very good. Very good. I mean, you mentioned, having board seats, and I know you're on
Yeah.
a wide array of boards. How involved do you guys, beyond just having board seats, involved in the companies and leadership and direction of the actual businesses?
Yeah, I tell all our folks here, and I tell everyone, if your definition of being an active and supportive board member is going to a board meeting, you're probably a failure, right?
Uh-huh.
Because it's important to have good board meetings and go to the board meetings and be active, but the real work is happening outside of those board meetings. So what are your touch points with those CEOs, and not just the CEO, but the CEO's direct reports, and those direct reports, that are helping those companies grow, helping them scale, and helping them leverage the experiences you have as investors or bankers for 20, 30 years, depending on it. So we really, I tell our folks here, and we kind of believe it, you meet the company where it's at and you help them wherever they're at. And some companies need a lot of help on strategy. Some it's finance, some it's recruiting, some it's business development optimization and channel strategies. Some it's on the product. Now, when you're dealing with deep tech, it's more of product market fit, not
Sure.
product design at the molecule level, but it's what's the market, where would this fit into? So a lot of that go to market help is there, and then a lot of it's just kind of that old school like CEO mentoring and helping. There's
Uh-huh.
some benefit from doing this stuff 20 plus years and seeing some bunch of CEOs go from obscurity to publicly traded, and then having some war wounds from all the things along the way. So, we just share as much as we can, make as many introductions as we can. And like I said, every company's got a list of priorities that they need when we're going into it. And we try to just match it up with where we can help and what's kind of the most important one at any given time.
Yeah. So how has your personal definition of leadership evolved over time, over your career? Has the funds grown, your business has grown?
I think what's changed is that I've really come to the point where I no longer have that defined model. Maybe not model, not the right, that kind of defined picture of what a leader is. Like, what
Hmm.
I've come to appreciate now after working in multiple industries and doing this for a while is that every leader has their own particular way of leading, right? And some of them do it in that charismatic, bigger than life kind of sales dev, biz dev way. And that's great because that works for them. Other of them are more product and tech focused and can do it in almost a timid way, right? Where it's not really, they're not like the fist pounder, they're not the ones that really light up a room like a charismatic person. However, it's their technical prowess and their level of intelligence that makes people want to work with them,
Uh-huh.
right? It's that everyone's got their own power that's going to cause customers to give them money, going to inspire people to leave the jobs they're at these great big companies and come work for this crazy startup. Somebody that's going to inspire an investor to write that next big check, or some biz dev partner to take a risk on their career and be like, oh yeah, I'll take this in the market with you, even though you're an unproven startup, right? And different people can inspire and lead differently. Like I said, you can be the charismatic biz dev person, you can be the product person, you can be the operational, you can be the operator, like those guys and gals that are like kind of no BS. This is what they do.
Uh-huh.
They execute and get stuff done. A lot of those tend to be more my military veteran folks, but
Sure, sure.
they're freaking awesome, right? And they just come in, they execute, and that's it. There's like not a lot of talk. It just gets done, and you take it from there. So I no longer have like, oh, this is a leader. Like I try to find what is it in that entrepreneur I'm talking to that's going to make them that incredible leader in their true and kind of authentic way that's there. Because at the end of the day, the goal is the same. Like they have to do something completely unimaginable, right? You got to take a company from 0 to 1 million, right?
Uh-huh.
In a couple years, sometimes create a market that doesn't exist, definitely create a product that's never existed, bend some law of science, physics, or economics, if not all of the above along the way,
Yeah,
right? And it's only great people and great leaders that can do that, and great people and leaders that can inspire a team to go along with them on that journey. So, I think everyone's just got to find their own way of doing it, and different folks can do it differently.
for sure, for sure. You kind of touched on this, but any particular like leadership lesson that you've learned that's been particularly valuable for you?
Um, I think the ones that I really learned, and maybe it's one of those ones that you've learned, you knew all the way, but like they keep coming back to it is like, I don't know if you read any Patrick Lencioni stuff,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
from, right? So his, like that concept of organizational health, like at
Uh-huh.
the most fundamental, if you're a healthy organization, you make good decisions.
Uh-huh.
If you're a healthy organization, people want to work with you. If you're a healthy organization, you have good meetings, right?
Mhm.
There's not politics and crap. And so like I think that going back to the basics again and again and again and again, like you go back to his principles, all encapsulated in the advantage that's there. Like every time I talk to a company, it can never be more true. Like, and then every time I talk to one of my fellow GPs in our other funds and they're bitching about like their investment processes or the deal they lost or this or the company's not doing well, like it all goes back to those fundamental organizational health things. Like, you guys hate each other. Of course you're making bad freaking
Right,
decisions.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
you don't even want to be in the same room with you. You don't even like each other, let alone want to
Uh-huh.
be in the same room with each other. So how did you think your investment decisions were going to go? Oh, and you don't think the entrepreneurs don't know that you guys don't like each other, and guys and gals, and just like
Right, right.
I see it across, right? I'm like, you don't think the entrepreneurs pick up on that? And so I think really going back to just those old school leadership lessons that Lencioni seems to just be masterful at telling those stories and
Yeah,
then encapsulating things. Just the importance of organizational health um, could not be more important, especially when you're trying to do the unimaginable with a startup.
for sure. How about how many like talk about healthy organizations? How much are you looking at culture, core values of the companies you're investing in, or trying to help
Yeah,
cultivate culture and core values within them?
yeah. I mean, when we're coming into these companies right now, it's different. I've invested later stage in my career, and now we're investing much earlier, about as early as I've gone historically. I guess when
Mhm.
you're coming to these companies and they've got 10 to 30 people, that culture is always there. but they're always, especially when it's 10, 15 people, you're really still hardening it and maturing it and breeding it. And so, when you sit down with the founding team, you can immediately get a sense of who they are as people and how they're interacting and what that's going to mean in a culture and how they're going to develop as an organization. Are they going to be more rigid? Are they going to be more fluid, more dynamic, more command and control? How are they going to structure things? And so, a lot of it is just sitting with those teams at the early stages, just getting a sense for who they are, what makes them tick, and why they're doing what they're doing now and how they got there, and maybe some of the struggles they went through along their way in life, both personally and professionally. Like if I get a good sense of that, I kind of have a sense for what the culture is going to be. And then they'll all have their own way of encapsulating it into values and
Uh-huh.
missions you know, and it never ceases to make me like one of them, I'm not going to mention any names, but it's like one of
Uh-huh.
the values is ask questions like a 5-year-old. I was like,
Uh-huh.
wait, what? Like, there's really smart people trying to solve a really hard problem. And even though it was not necessarily in deep science, it's more in kind of the identity space. I'm like, ask questions like a 5-year-old. I'm like, that's almost brilliant, right? Because like
Uh-huh.
they go to that's their way of saying go to first principles on everything always 100%. Doesn't matter if you are like call center person or EVP of revenue, right? Ask questions like a 5-year-old. And like, you can imagine that boardroom with a bunch of VCs and operators when they ask
Uh-huh.
questions like a 5-year-old comes in. And I was like, it's freaking brilliant.
Yeah.
I could have never come up with that on my own. I've known the team for 50, I've known the CEO for 15 years now. And he's a big first principles guy.
Uh-huh.
But like to come out with that as like a mission and a value or do that as a value to accomplish their mission. I was like, oh, that's great. But the mission is really important to me, right? Because it's got to be something bigger than the team. It's got to be something bigger than the company. It's got to be something bigger than any leader. And so the missions um, that are really out to change the world and make this world a better place are one of the things that attract me to all these companies.
Yeah. How about any future trends or opportunities you see out there that you're most excited about? And then how you position you guys yourself to capitalize
Yeah.
on or contribute?
You know, for us, some of the things we're most interested in, I'll just make two examples. There's a lot, but two things we're really interested in. We started very big advocates of hydrogen. We look at hydrogen being the energy source, not just of the future, but of now. So, you've got natural gas flowing through pipes and running boilers and homes and commercial industrial places and things like that. We view hydrogen as being as important going forward in that because hydrogen clean. There's no like it's carbon negative. It's reliable. We just have to get it cost effective, right? Because hydrogen can be really expensive to produce.
Uh-huh.
And so when we see these next generations technologies like pyrolysis, when you're using heat or other methods to crack natural gas and pull out the hydrogen and sequester the carbon, like, and that's in the techno-economic analysis is really favorable. You're like, okay, that gets exciting. So things that are creating those new energy sources of the future cost effectively that can scale, like hydrogen, we're really excited about. The other side of it is that there are those situations where natural gas is just going to be part of it going forward, part of this process, part of this energy, part of whatever it is. And so, because there's natural gas, there's going to be some emissions. Well, how do you capture those emissions at that point source and either utilize that carbon to create something else or capture that carbon, sequester it, and make sure it doesn't go in the atmosphere? So the things that point source capture of carbon we like a lot, and point source utilization we're really excited about, and then the things around hydrogen production, especially as it relates to pyrolysis, are things we're really interested in right now too.
Oh, very exciting. How about, we talk a lot about
Mhm.
on this show anyway, about free markets and capitalism and in what ways has embracing the free market system benefited your business model for the firm?
I think the whole free markets system for I'll be selfish as it relates to me, and it
Yeah,
enabled me to get here, right?
right.
So it's like, I grew up in the Midwest, went to the wrong schools, had the wrong degree, was a freaking trial lawyer for Christ's sake, and just knew I wanted to be a venture capitalist. And somehow, through the free market system, was able to pivot till I got to a point where I am today that I've been fortunate enough to be a venture capitalist for a long time now and work with some great folks. So it's only within the free markets that that happens. I actually think the free markets, as it relates to both venture capital and then capital allocation, it's not perfect, but it does lead to the best results, right? That, there was a time recently where capital was not scarce, and there's a lot of people allocating capital into markets that they shouldn't have been because they didn't understand them. They thought they were easy. And we had, because of that, some of the largest failures in the history of private equity and venture that have happened in the last 3 or 4 years,
Yeah.
because folks went against that free market system, or I would say abused it and said, oh, wait, we can do this. Well, maybe, right? I watch National Geographic. I don't think I can go hunt alligators, right?
Right.
It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I should go investing in an asset class I know nothing about. So I think, the free market system eventually does bring us back to a norm and an efficiency. But it's not without its damage along the way when things happen. But um, I think when people try to abuse the system and over optimize it and not do things that are within the industry norms of what generates a good return for both your shareholders, your employees, your communities, your stakeholders, that's when things get really skewed.
Sure. How about any common misconceptions that you encounter of capital? I mean, capitalism is under attack, obviously, so are free
Yeah.
markets, but any common misconceptions of capitalism that you encounter, and how do you address those?
I think we saw a lot of misconceptions and misunderstanding where we said we were going to invest in green molecules. And everyone's like, no, you have to invest in electrification if you're going to, have a positive impact on society and energy and climate. And, people were like, there were people that would not meet with us because we were doing green molecules. They're like, not even going to do it. Or people that met with us just to see what it's about. And they're like, wait, natural gas? That's the whole value chain. No, we're not. No, no. And so, it's been interesting to see a lot of those people that didn't want to talk to us at Fund One that really excited about what we're doing now in Fund Two. So it's great to see people broaden their level of understanding, broaden their mindset to understand what's going to take to make a difference here. So I think that's been great, and I think, really understanding within the free market, within capitalism, what is the right capital plan. So there's the green molecules thing, and the second side is, what is the right capital plan for these companies that are out to build, the next energy source to solve the world's energy needs, right? It's going to take venture folks like myself. It's going to take some government funding. It's going to take some private equity dollars, and it's going to take some project finance dollars along the way. And so I think people along that capitalist stack or that capital stack really need to know how to work with one another and how to structure things so everyone's getting a fair return for the amount of risk they're taking, or a
Mhm.
great return for the amount of risk that they're taking along the way, relative to the amount of money that these companies need to consume to hit their inflection points. I
Okay.
think really understanding that is important.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that your partner had some good relationships with some energy companies, CEOs that have
Mm,
now become limited partners. Who, when you're going out trying to raise money, maybe look at Fund One and now on Fund Two, who is your typical investor? Who are you guys targeting to be limited partners
Yeah.
in your funds?
Historically, it was the leadership team on the natural gas distribution side
Okay.
of the companies that were most interested. So it was those forward-thinking CEOs, those CEOs that plan to be in their spots for decades to come, wanting to get a better understanding of the future and of innovation, and have a true partner that was going to get in the trenches with them, advocate, as well as provide them a financial return. So it started with kind of those pure play LDCs. What we're seeing now for fund two is the multi-line utilities, the people that have both electric and gas, maybe they have electric, gas, and maybe even water, that they're like, well, there's all this innovation focused at my electric team, maybe some of my water, but no one's paying any attention to my gas business, to the
Uh-huh.
LDCs. And they're like, well, this fund said they were going to do stuff for the gas business, but if I look at it, they've done like 2%. That's ancillary to the gas business, not even core to it. So we're seeing now more of these larger multi-line utilities, understanding that there needs to be someone focusing on their gas business and really be the advocate for the gas folks. And then because natural gas, it's not just the industry, but that value chain, we're seeing interest from the industrial companies that
Okay.
service the natural gas industry, that believe in, if there's, because they're relying on the natural gas industry, there needs to be a future in green molecules, and the same technologies that we're investing in will probably be the partners for those industrial partners tomorrow, those industrial companies tomorrow, and a lot of the manufacturing and distribution might come through those industrial partners as well. And so we've seen interest from the industrial companies, the multi-line utilities, as well as the pure play LDCs, local distribution companies. And now we're seeing a lot of interest, and it's been really exciting to see this as well. That you've got the transmission companies. So
Hmm.
if you think about big pipes, exploration and production of natural gas goes into the transmission system, then that goes to the distribution utilities, the people that bring into your home or your business or your industrial complex, depending on the territory. So those transmission companies are really interesting. I've become more interested in, because we've said this from the beginning. If it's good to decarbonize and bring efficiency and sustainability and resilience to the distribution, it's good for everybody across the value chain,
Uh-huh.
all the way to the upstream. And so, it's great to work with those larger companies at the transmission side, as well as even upstream, to say, that type of scale that they've got, if we can bring the innovation to them and help them understand innovation, that is just a huge win for us and a huge win for the fund. So we're excited to see the expansion, to the midstream and to the industrial partners. And our first investors, the LDCs, the utility companies that invested, they're really excited to have these other people at the table, right?
Sure.
Because before it
Absolutely.
was us and 7 and 8 of them, and doing roundtables and doing deep dives and going to events together, and even doing some lobbying. And they want to build the community. They want to build this thing and build the platform. And so it's great to see other folks kind of acknowledge the importance of what we're doing, and hopefully get some folks to join the family for fun too.
Yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. How about looking at, within the portfolio companies,
Mhm.
what's the approach to, attracting and retaining like high performance leaders within the space, within the different companies? How involved in that, or what are your
Yeah,
CEOs looking at?
we spend a lot of time with our teams recruiting. So we do recruiting strategies, as well as I do a ton of interviewing. In fact, I've got 2 interviews this afternoon, for our portfolio companies. I think the larger challenge, and you probably see this in your business. I'm sure you're seeing it. I know you're seeing it every day, right? Finding that person at the right time, where he or she has that in their career, where they've grown this market expertise, they've grown this technical acumen, but they've generally done it in a different environment than a startup,
Right.
right?
Right.
So you're kind of like, we talked about culture before, right? So it's one thing to embrace the culture, it's another thing to work in those environments, right?
Right.
So finding
Yes.
the right person in the career that's comfortable with the risk profile, understands the value of equity that they're going to get granted in the company, realizing that a lot of their other compensation benefits are not going to be the same as if when they worked at a Fortune 500 or Fortune 100. So finding people that believe in the mission of what the startup's doing to come work for it. And I'm talking more about management, kind of executive
Yep.
levels. Finding people that really bought into the mission and bought into that mission enough that they're going to stick it through that J curve and that sawtooth upswing that's there.
Uh-huh.
So they really have to believe in it, as well as understand the value of the equity and how that their work and their accomplishments directly translates to enterprise value, which makes their equity more valuable. It's really important to find those right people that fit there. Um, it's a different it's a different recruiting strategy, not even a strategy, when you're talking to a young scientist or a young engineer that's maybe 2 or 3 years into their career. and they want to go from academia into the startup world. They're like, it's it's just a different risk profile for them.
Right.
They're just super excited. And so same things. They have to believe in the mission. They got to want to change the world. They got to believe in the value of their equity. But it's a different thing for them, in their age group and their kind of life maturity and lifestyle than those folks that you're trying to pull out of a super major, right?
Right.
Or you're trying to pull out of one of the largest industrial companies in the world to say, yeah, I know you've been running like a $4 billion P&L. This company just raised $6 million in seed capital. What do you think about building again? So it's and a lot of people say they want to do it, and I think a lot of people believe they want to do it, but you really have to judge if they're capable of doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, more times than not, not more times than not, maybe half and half, it doesn't work out because people convince themselves they are, but then once you see them in
Right.
it, they're like,
Yep.
yeah, you're doing your best, you're trying to pull it off, but you can't. Oh, and by the way, it's a startup, and I can't afford another quarter of a miss. So we need to make some changes, or we
Right.
need to look at this differently. So it's really kind of finding the right person for the right companies, um, you know, at that time when they're most able to add enterprise value and are comfortable with those different types of structures or lack of structure.
No. Yeah. Very, very good. Very good. Very true. Absolutely. How about looking back for you? What decision or action would you say has been, most pivotal in your success so far?
Um, there's those decisions you make and those decisions you get forced to make, right?
Right.
It's
Yep.
like, so, what's really a decision and what was a push? I think some of the biggest pivotal points career wise, as well as personally. So leaving the practice of law, just like having a conversation with my boss saying, what, big law is not working out for me, just packing up my box and walking out going, I don't have a job. I'm in a new town. I didn't grow up here. I think I'm going to start my own law firm. I have no partners, no clients, no infrastructure. Oh, okay, that sounds good. To like make that leap was huge. I think, then building up a law firm, making it successful enough to keep, 4 or 5 lawyers busy to say, what, I'm going to pivot again and go in-house counsel for a software company, thinly capitalized software company, to be one of the first employees to help build. I think those were huge decisions. And then I think all of us are at the stage, not everybody, but you get to a point where you realize none of this gets done unless you've got a sound family and a great partner,
Yeah.
and a great wife that's
Uh-huh.
able to kind of, get, marry women that have as high pain tolerance as we do, that can deal with the ups and downs and back and forth, the roller coaster rides,
Yep.
and not be affected by it. I mean, the importance of that is often unstated and underestimated, but you've got to have that solid home life that's there because it enables you to do the job you need to do.
Yeah.
If you're working 7 days a week and the crazy hours, so
Uh-huh.
it's a little bit of that. And then leaving the Fortune 100 to say, I think I can do better. Crazy, right? I think I can do better on my own than at this Fortune 100 company. Um, you know, to look back and make those decisions. Um, you know, I wouldn't do anything different because I'm super blessed to be at the state I'm at now. Um, but looking back, those were kind of some crazy decisions, if
For
not forced
sure.
ones, that I made. So
For sure.
yeah,
Oh, all true. How about thinking of like just young aspiring entrepreneurs or not even
Mhm.
young, but people looking to make the pivot? Any advice you'd give either to a young aspiring
yeah,
entrepreneur or someone, in the Fortune 100 looking to make leap into the startup world or the VC world?
yeah. I think first and foremost, it's got a couple things. Do the best damn thing you can do with the job you've got right then and there, and then leave. Like
Uh-huh.
the folks that like stay in their state and kind of retire at work and like are bitching and ungrateful, like your performance degrades, you're not helping anybody around you. And if you're miserable and don't like it, you're not going to see the opportunities that are around you to even do something. So first and foremost, focus on what's right in front of you, do the best damn thing you can. Number two, when you make that move, make sure it's something you believe in, hell and high water, because it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. People are going to think you're crazy for doing it. And that's how it should be, right? Because it's only like the minority of people that lead, it's not the majority. So by definition, you're thinking differently than everybody
Mhm.
else. But you got to be ready for that. You got to be up for it. And you have to believe in it because, like I said, it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder than you ever imagined. But if it's something you really believe in, if it's something you really know is right, if it's something you know is going to make this world a better place, you're going to stick with it through the ups and downs. And that's why it's so powerful to back a founder in these companies versus back, the hired gun.
Yep.
So I think you really got to like do the best with what you've got. Only leap when when you believe it's something you want to devote the rest of your life and every ounce of effort in, because it's going to be harder than you think. And make sure it's bigger than you and bigger than anything, bigger than the company.
No, very, very good. How about looking to the future? How do you plan to evolve business strategy, investment philosophy,
Yeah.
to thrive in the changing economic landscape?
Yeah. I think what I'd like to see ECV do, or I know I'd like to see ECV do, is I'd like to see us expand this green molecules thesis, um, both in the scale of it within venture and then also provide capital support um, to additional opportunities. And when I say additional opportunities, like we're doing early stage venture, day in and day out, we see opportunities for green molecules financing around project development. So, we back a hydrogen company, they're developing hydrogen at scale, but then there'll be an individual project that gets financed for a production site in Texas. Like that project itself has different return profiles, different capital planning, different needs, which aren't right for venture. But they're really adjacent and it's a lot of the same things. And so I'd like to see us bring in partners that give us the scale and then the capital to invest a little bit later stage, so a bigger fund, so we're able to invest across stages, and then also look at things within green molecules as it relates to project finance, if not private equity as well. And that would be a combination of raising enough capital, but then bringing in some additional expertise for folks that do those types of deals day in, day out, all day long. I'd like to see us do that because I know for a fact green molecules is important enough to the future of energy that it needs support across this capital stack and defined and dedicated firms and teams along that. So I'd like to see us scale to that. I'd like us I think I'd like to get a little bit. I know we've just hired somebody, a new associate. I'd like to see us do some more hiring, some more capital. So maybe I
Okay.
get a little more into, instead of player coach, maybe a little more coaching
Uh-huh.
on the team as well. I mean, I love
Yeah.
playing the game. There's no doubt it's what I live for. But it'd be nice to spend even more time, as a coach on these things.
Sure.
But I'd really like to see us. Yeah, I think it's I know it's our responsibility to expand this platform and get into other areas of capital and expand the team so we can do greater.
Yeah. Kind of going a step further, how are you working to build lasting legacy through the business?
Yeah, I mean, I spend a lot of time with our young investment professionals. They may say too much time, helping them, identify. It goes back to a lot of Patrick Lencioni stuff. Like, what can I
Mm.
do to help you be the best person you can at venture? And some of these folks, they're like 72 hours into their venture out there, 72 hours into their venture career. And some of
Uh-huh.
them are 7 years and some of them are 2 years, right? And so it's really going back to some of them, the most basic, even the people that are more experienced, going back to the primary ethos and rules and guidelines around venture and how can they be the best venture capitalist with their skill set, their perspective, their network, their expertise, and how can they really be the best at what they do, um, and be at a point where they can do my job better than I ever could, right? And so it's really about spending time with those folks to make sure they have the resources and they have the support they need to become the best at it because it's every day. Yeah, don't tell myself every day. They seem to amaze me with what they're able to do on their own. once we give them the support and a little bit of guidance and benefit of experience that I have and my partners have to get them down their path on their careers. So it's really about like I really, really want to make myself unneeded around here.
Yes.
And so that next generation leads it like the more I can the more I'm not needed, the better, right? That's really kind of my goal. And I can see it. I can see in the guy that just started 3 days ago. I can see in the folks that have been here with us since day one. So my goal is really raise more capital to bring more folks on like that and get them to where they can be.
Yeah, that's incredible. How about last question? What is your personal definition of success? You can take it any way you want.
Well, personal definition of success, and take a second on that one. I think probably Andy Frisella has the best definitions of personal success. So I'm
Yes,
going to
he
try not to
does.
steal.
Yes, he does.
I'm going to try not to steal his stuff. But I mean, if you're able to look back and say you created something no one else could create that had a positive impact on people you've never met, never known, or never will know, and your hands are completely off the wheel, and you can look back and said, "Yeah, I had something to do with that," and you've taken care of your family, you've taken care of your community along the way. I think that is the ultimate definition of success. Plus, to do it at a point where you've got a nice amount of cash in the bank and capital to play with. So
Yeah.
that I think is really it because I don't think you can. I think true success you have to have everything. It's got to be financial. It's got to be family. It's got to be community. It's got to be health. It's got to be spiritual.
That's incredible. Well, thank you, Vic. This has been an absolute pleasure. Truly
No,
fascinating
it's
for
been
me
great.
personally, and yeah, for our audience here. So thank you very much. Really,
I'm
really
glad.
appreciate you. Yeah.
No, thanks for reaching out. This is great. I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Awesome. Thank you.